Hi, welcome to our Autumn Tasty Treats episode. Today we're going to be making 3 different tasty autumn treats. First we're going to be making stuffed banana peppers. Then we're going to be making, for an entree, pumpkin alfredo with a green bean side. And then for dessert we're going to be making some spooky gingerbread cookies. If you would like to make any of these recipes, the links for the recipes are in the description below, along with our Beanstack activity code, which is caramel with a capital C _ corn with a capital C. Once again, that's also in the description below. Now you may hear some strange noises, and you may also see a very small person join me in the video every once in a while, probably most likely in the gingerbread portion. That's just my helper. He likes to make himself invisible sometimes, so you won't always see him. Thank you for joining us for our first part of our cooking tutorial. Today we're going to start with making the stuffed banana peppers. So first what you're going to want to do is clean your banana peppers. You're going to need somewhere around 10 medium size or large banana peppers, but you can use as many as you like because this filling that we're going to put in them can be used for just about anything. So to figure out what part of your pepper will lay the flattest, you're just going to put it on your board and let it roll. And wherever it lands is where you're going to cut it from. So you're going to cut off the top. You want to be very careful doing this. Don't want to splash yourself in the eye. And then you're just going to very carefully go down the center, like this. Okay. And then you just want to clean the membrane and the seeds out. And you're just going to run your knife delicately through there. You can also use your fingers to get the seeds out. After you finish cleaning your peppers, you're going to want to go wash your hands before you touch anything else, especially your eyes. And you can use whatever kind of peppers you prefer. You can also use jalapenos for this. We're just using banana peppers today. Okay, so now our banana peppers are all clean, so they should look like this on the inside. So now we're going to set these aside and we're going to start on our filling. So for our filling, you're going to need 8 ounces of cream cheese, a cup of plain Greek yogurt, 4 to 6 cloves of garlic, some dried basil and oregano, and salt and pepper. And then you're also going to need shredded mozzarella and Parmesan cheese. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to mix. We're going to start with mixing the cream cheese and the yogurt together. The yogurt's already in this bowl, so now we're just going to put the cream cheese in here. You're going to want to make sure your cream cheese is softened just to make it a little bit easier for yourself. And you can also use a mixer to do this, provided you use the paddle. Don't use the whisk. It will not end well. So we're just going to mix all this together. Okay, so now we're going to add in the rest of our ingredients. First, we're going to start with the seasoning. So we're going to put the garlic in first, and then the oregano and the basil. And then we're just going to add some salt and pepper. The salt and pepper is just to your taste, so you're going to want to taste this every once in a while. See how you like it. So then we'll mix all that in, and then we'll add the other cheeses. Okay, so now we'll add the Parmesan and then the mozzarella. Okay, so now your mixture should look like this, and now you're going to want to get your oven ready. So you're going to want to preheat your oven to 400 degrees. Okay, so as you can see, I have filled most of them. I've got 3 left to fill. So what I'm using is a Ziploc bag full of our stuffing, if you will. You can use a pastry bag, or you can also just fill it with a spoon, whatever you like. This is just a Ziploc bag with just a little bit of the corner snipped off, and it works really well. You can also use it for icing cakes or cookies. You won't be able to do anything fancy, of course, but you just want to draw a line down the pepper just to fill it up. You might need to use one hand to pipe and one hand to hold the pepper steady. It should just look like that. And then you're just going to pop it into your pan. You just put them all in there, and then you're going to put them in the oven at 400 degrees for 25 to 30 minutes. So I'll see you in about a half an hour. Like our peppers are all done, and that took us 25 minutes. You should just cook them until the cheese is brown. So you're just going to go ahead and remove those and then put them onto your serving dish. And those are our banana stuffed peppers. Thank you for joining us for the second part of our cooking tutorial. We're going to make pumpkin Alfredo next. So what you'll need for this is, of course, pasta, 1 bag. I'm using some fun vegetable dyed pasta. Then you're going to need 1 tablespoon of garlic, 1 stick of butter, 1 cup of heavy cream. You're going to need salt and pepper, just so for flavor, 2 cups of Parmesan cheese, 1/2 cup of pumpkin puree. You can either use a can, or if you have a pumpkin that you're going to cook down, you can use that as well. And then you're also going to need a pinch of cinnamon and 1/4 teaspoon, of a nutmeg. We're going to get started on cooking it. So first we're going to add the stick of butter. So you're just going to add it to a warm pan that's on medium heat, and you're just going to let it melt. And then once it melts a bit, you're going to add the garlic in. We just want to brown our butter. We just need it to melt a little bit. So that looks like it's going fine. So now we're going to add our garlic in. And we don't want our garlic to overcook, so you just want to keep moving it. And like I said, you want to keep it on medium heat. And we just want this butter to melt all the way through. And then butter is all melted, so now we're going to very carefully add our cream. And you want to keep whisking throughout, this way you don't curdle your cream. Just going to get my spatula to get the rest of that out. Okay. And then we're just going to want this to warm through before we add the rest of our ingredients. And now next we're going to add our Parmesan cheese and continue to stir while you put this in as well. Okay. And then you just want to incorporate that, and then you just want it all to melt in. Okay, and now we just want to add salt and pepper to taste. And then also the nutmeg. Now this is where you would stop. Well, actually we are going to thicken it a bit, but around here is where you would stop if you did not want to make pumpkin Alfredo sauce. Okay, our cheese is all melted, so now we're just going to add in our pumpkin puree. And you can always add more or less of any of the ingredients just to suit your taste. The only thing you're going to want to hold back on taking out or leaving in is going to be the butter and the cream.
Yep.
Okay, so now we're going to add just the touch of cinnamon. And I did make an error. I said half a cup of pumpkin. I meant 1 cup of pumpkin. But as I said, that is one of the parts of this that you can change to suit your taste. So if you want it to only be a little bit of pumpkin, then you just put a little bit of pumpkin in. If you want to be really pumpkin-y, then you'll put a lot of pumpkin in. Alright, so this is a little bit thick, so we're just going to want to add some chicken stock or the broth from the noodles that you cooked. Either is fine. Just add enough to thicken it to whatever thickness that you'd like. I'm using chicken stock because I like the flavor it gives a little bit more than the noodle stock, but you can use whichever. You just want to whisk it till it's combined and into the consistency you'd like it. Alright, so that looks good. So now we're just going to let it warm up a little bit more, and then we'll set it to the side and get our green beans ready. Okay, so now we're going to cook our beans. We're going to cook them real quick in some boiling chicken stock. This is just because of the flavor. You can also do this in water. I like to do it in chicken stock because it adds another level of flavor. So we're just going to cook them until they're just barely al dente, and then we're going to move them into a skillet with butter and some garlic. I have already cleaned and snapped these beans, so they're all set to go. You can use either fresh beans like I did or frozen beans. I'm just using fresh beans because that's what I had in my garden. Okay, so our green beans have finished cooking in the first pot, so now we're just going to transfer them over into our skillet. And you want to take as little liquid with you as possible, just because if you get it in there, it'll start spitting at you. Hot water is not fun to have yourself burned with. Alright, so now we're just going to finish cooking them, and then we'll be all set. At this point you can add some salt and pepper if you want. I'm not going to add any right now. I'm going to add some later since I cooked them in the chicken stock. Yeah. So these look good, so we're going to go ahead and remove these from the heat, and we're going to go ahead and plate up our first course. Okay, so now we're going to start plating our food. So we're going to put our green beans on our plate. I already put our noodles on our plate. And you just want to kind of cook those until they're al dente. All right. And now we're gonna put on our sauce. Just enough to coat the noodles. And then you're just gonna toss them a little bit. All right, and there's our pumpkin Alfredo with green beans as a side. Thank you for joining us for the last part of our cooking tutorial for fall. So next we're gonna make gingerbread cookies. To do that, we need 1/3 cup of shortening, 1 cup of brown sugar, 1.5 cups of molasses. You can use dark or whatever color you prefer. 2/3 cups of cold water, 7 cups of flour, and then we have 2 teaspoons of baking soda. And then in here we have all our spices. So we have 1 teaspoon each of salt, allspice, ginger, cloves, and cinnamon. So to get started, we're going to mix our shortening, sugar, and molasses all together. And again, this is 1/3 cup of shortening, 1 cup of sugar. Made a bit of a mess there. It's all right, I can sweep up the floor here in a second. And the little bit that landed on the floor won't matter to the taste of the cookies, but if it does, I can always add a little bit more sugar in. And then the molasses. Now, if your house is a little bit cold, your molasses will probably take a little bit of time to come out of the container you've placed it in. That happens to everyone. If you want it to speed it up, you could put it in some warm water. It will loosen it up a bit, make it a little bit easier to pour. My little assistant's getting a little bit sleepy. It's close to nap time. That's why he's off camera for this bit. Okay, so now we're going to mix everything. Oh, he's back. Here, come here, bud. You want to see? Now, if you're working with little kids, make sure you keep their fingers and hair away from the mixer. Okay, so that looks good. So we're going to turn it off. And now we're going to sift our dry ingredients in and add the water. So I'm going to add my water into my molasses here. As you can see, my water is brown. This is because I ran, as I was using my molasses, my jar, became empty. And in an effort to give it more molasses flavor and also to not waste anything, I poured my water in there just to give it a little bit extra bit of a molasses flavor and also, waste not, want not. So now we're going to add the water in. And turn our mixer back on low. Okay, so now we're just sifting the last of the dry ingredients. Normally you don't have to sift your dry ingredients for a gingerbread recipe. I'm doing so in order to mix them and also because this is my grandmother's recipe and that's what she told me I had to do. And we don't argue with Grandma. Alright, so now my little helper is going to help me sift the flour. This is a good job for any little kid if you have helping them, even a wee little one like this one. Sometimes they get bored though, so you have to give them something to entertain themselves. I've given him one of our plastic cookie cutters because he won't hurt himself playing with this one. If you make these cookies with a little kid, be prepared for your kitchen to get messy. But that's part of the fun of baking. Alright, so that's the last of our dry ingredients added. And our water's all mixed in, so now we're going to very slowly add in our dry ingredients. So, now you can use a paper plate or anything like that to make a funnel. I have a lovely little funnel attachment to my machine, but we're still going to very carefully, oh, careful bud. No, we're not going to mix. We're going to put it into the mixer. Ready? So you just want to do a little bit at a time so you don't cover your kitchen in flour. Too much more than I already have, anyway. Alright, once you have some in there, you can go ahead and lower your machine and then turn it on to your lowest setting and just let it mix in a little bit, and then you can keep adding more flour as it goes on. Okay, so now we're almost done, and you can see my machine struggling a bit. Even if your machine is newer and has a good lock on it, you might want to hold the lid down at this point, because as the bless you, as the dough gets thicker, it becomes a little bit harder for it to spin. So now it's all done, so we're going to take this off and set it in the sink. No buddy. And then we're going to take our dough out. Hi, bud. Just a second. Ah! That was my hair. Be nice, bud. Okay, so at this point you're going to want to taste it. Make sure that you like how the dough tastes. And then we're going to chill it for at least an hour in the refrigerator. You can also chill it for a little bit longer. If you want, you can chill it up to a couple days. I think that's pretty good. Do you want to try some dough? No. All right. So now you can either chill this in saran wrap, or you can use a Ziploc bag. Whatever works for you, basically. So you're going to have to put this onto the counter. So put a little bit of flour down, just so you can work it into a ball. You don't want to knead it like you do with bread or anything like that. Just enough that makes it a little bit easier to work with. Make sure you get all of the dough out of the bowl, but if there's any left, feel free to snack on it. Don't work it too much, you just want to get it into a nice ball. So you can either put it into saran wrap, or you can put it into a Ziploc bag. I'm just going to put mine into a Ziploc bag. Okay. Here's my bag. Okay, so you're just going to put this into the fridge for at least an hour, but as I said, you can put it in there for up to a couple days. Okay, so now our dough is nice and rested, so taken it out of the fridge after an hour. So it's in a nice little ball. You're going to want to do with this in chunks, because otherwise you're going to have way too much to work with at once. So you're going to take your rolling pin and you're just going to put it straight down into the center of your ball, and then you're just going to push it forward once and backward once, and then you're just going to turn it. And you're going to repeat that step until your dough is a 1/4 inch thick. So now that your dough is the right thickness, you can go ahead and get your cookie cutters and start cutting it out. So if you wanted to do a gingerbread house, you could. They sell kits, or you can just cut them out whatever you want. This is the one I have, but we're not going to do this one right now. So now you just take your cookie cutters, and you want to get them all as close together as possible. So you're going to want to set them up before you press down. This way you don't use up any dough you use the most amount of dough as possible, and also this way you won't overwork your dough. It's always a good idea to have a few small cookie cutters, that way you can get the leftover bits. Okay, so then you can start pressing down your cookies straight down with the cookie cutters. And as you can see, I don't have a preference between metal cookie cutters or plastic cookie cutters. I like them both. If you do have metal ones, make sure you don't accidentally bend them, because they can and will bend out of shape. So then you're just going to want to put these on a pan that you prepared that's got parchment foil on it. And then you just want to gently pick them up and remove the cookie cutters. If they're not all perfect, that's okay. Being Halloween gingerbread cookies, they can be a little bit spooky. Okay, so now that we have all our cookies cut out and on our pan, spread out nice and evenly so they don't run into each other. You're going to put this in the oven for 10 to 12 minutes, so be sure to set your timer. And then your leftover dough, you're going to push back into a ball. You're going to repeat the process we just did until you run out of dough, or until you get the amount of cookies you'd like. So I'll see you in 10 to 12 minutes. So these are out of the oven now. It actually took me 13 minutes to bake them, not 10. And you'll know they're finished when they start to just pull away from the edges of the parchment paper. And if they start to become brown on the edges, you definitely want to take them out, because otherwise they might start to overcook. I know they're already brown, but if you notice, they're a little bit darker on the edges. So then you're just going to carefully pick them up and put them onto a cooling rack where they'll finish cooling. And after they cool off, you can go ahead and either leave them plain or you can decorate them however you'd like. So I'll see you guys in just a few seconds. So our gingerbread cookies are all cool now, and as you can see, we decorated one to look like an owl. To do that, we just used some brown and red gel icing and some sugar iced eyes. And then you see we have this one gingerbread cookie that's the shape of a pumpkin, that's a 3D. So we did that with this 3D pumpkin cookie cutter I have. They just end up slotting together, as you can see here. You might have to cut the pieces a little bit to make them fit in the end, because the cookies expanded in the oven. Just be careful not to break the cookie while you do it. If you want to try making cookies like these ones, you can check out our nonfiction section in the library, and it should be in the 641.8 area. If you need help looking for any cookie cookbooks on how to make gingerbread cookies or anything else that you've seen today, please go ahead and ask somebody at the circulation desk to help you. So here's our stuffed banana peppers, our pumpkin Alfredo with green bean side, and our spooky gingerbread cookies. Thank you for joining us for our Autumn's Tasty Treats episode. If you would like to make any of these foods that you saw today, the recipes are in the description below, along with our bean stack code, which is caramel with a capital C _ corn with a capital C. You can also find recipes to make your own different autumn treats in our cookbook section in the nonfiction section under 641. Thanks! Alright, well I think that's a wrap. I think we can probably clean up now.
Ah, great! That's all that's left for the camera crew.
Yeah.